Good morning and welcome back. We are now on day 317 of our 365 days of Bible study. We are now continuing to look at those parts of the Bible that are unique to St. Matthew. The other Gospels don't have these stories, and today we have the story of the death of Judas, which only occurs in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 27, verses 3 to 10. When Judas, who had betrayed Jesus, saw that Jesus had been condemned to death, he was deeply sorry and gave the 30 pieces of silver back to the chief priests and elders. He was saying to them, "I've done a sinful thing, betraying this innocent person and causing his blood to be spilt." They replied, "That's no concern of ours. Do what you like." So he threw the silver coins down in the temple and left. He went and hanged himself. But the chief priests picked the silver coins up. They were saying, "Better not break the law by putting blood money in the temple treasury." They discussed what to do and decided to buy the potter's field as a place to bury foreigners. That place has been called the Field of Blood ever since. This was to fulfill something written by the prophet Jeremiah. They received the 30 silver coins. This was the price that some of Israel's descendants had decided on for the one they wanted to pay for. They used the money to buy the potter's field, as the Lord had directed me. Well, this dramatic episode was unknown to Mark, Luke, and John, and only here in Matthew's Gospel does it come to us. Many dismiss it as Matthew's being over-enthusiastic in his eagerness for his Gospel to fulfill as many Old Testament prophecies as possible, in his efforts to hook in as many former Jews as he could. Now, I'm not so sceptical myself, as I shall explain in a minute. A different story appears in 2 verses of the Acts of the Apostles, in which Luke tells us of Judas himself using the money to buy a plot of land, where he fell over and burst open, spilling his entrails on the ground. Hence the name of the place, the Field of Blood. This has caused some serious scholars to doubt that it actually happened. But first, let's look at Matthew's quote from Jeremiah and see what Jeremiah was talking about in the first place. When we look it up, it turns out not to have been a quote from Jeremiah at all, but from Zechariah chapter 11, verse 13. Was this just a slip of the pen or a lapse of memory on Matthew's part? It's also not quite the standard text he uses, but appears to be from a Syriac translation. The story of how Matthew came by this event is obviously a complicated one that scholars will continue to argue about. It even puzzled early New Testament scholars, and several ancient manuscripts have corrected Matthew's mistake by substituting Jeremiah's name for Zechariah's. Luke's story in Acts confirms Matthew's in 2 respects, though. First, Judas did not survive, and second, the Field of Blood was where he died. We have to leave open whether it was by accident or by suicide, because this story has obviously reached Matthew and Luke by 2 different routes, but Matthew had access to Jewish sources that Luke didn't have, and possibly some who were close to the action may have become Christians in Matthew's church. We will never know. I personally choose to favour Matthew's version over Luke's 2 verses, but it is a gut feeling, and I must leave you to make up your own minds about it. Well, tomorrow we have one of Matthew's unique additions to the resurrection story, his take on the guard placed on the tomb and the earthquake. I'll see you tomorrow.